Martin Luther King attended segregated public schools in Georgia, graduating from high school at the age of 15. He received the bachelor's degree in 1948 from Morehouse College, a distinguished Negro institution of Atlanta from which both his father and grandfather had graduated. King was an American clergyman, activist, and leader in the African American civil rights movement. He is best known for his role in the advancement of civil rights using nonviolent civil disobedience. King has become a national icon in the history of American progressivism. A Baptist minister, King became a civil rights activist early in his career. He led the 1955 Montgomery bus boycott and helped found the Southern Christian Leadership Conference in 1957, serving as its first president. With the SCLSC, King led an unsuccessful struggle against segregation in Albany, Georgia in 1962, and organized nonviolent protests in Birmingham, Alabama that attracted national attention following television news coverage of the brutal police response.
Okay, so Papa, can you tell us a little about what, how you saw and portrayed Dr. King in these movements?
Yeah. Actually, we thought of him as kind of a strong, overbearing kind of person at first, but when you get right down to what he was about, you became a big supporter of him. But he was a strong person.
Like why, I mean, like what made you feel that way, I guess?
Well, I think probably the way we, it's where we came from, how we were taught. It was kind of a shock to our way of life a lot of times. But that was far out a little bit, you know. Really, when you got serious about things, we knew he was right in our hearts. And that was pretty easy to accept. But there was a lot of hardcore people that would, their morals, I think, were blinded, and they just into white and black instead of people. So yeah, he did a good thing, and he was a good leader. Influenced a lot of people. A lot of people did things that they didn't get credit for. But I mean, that's the way things happen. You get people motivated to a good thing, and it'll happen.
Were you, you and your family, were you guys like a little devastated once you heard about the assassination of King?
Yes.
On December 21st, 1956, after the Supreme Court of the United States had declared unconstitutional the laws requiring segregation on buses, Negroes and whites rode the buses as equals. During these days of boycott, King was arrested, his home was bombed, he was subjected to personal abuse, but at the same time he emerged as a Negro leader of the first rank. In March 1960, students representing Atlanta's 6 historically black colleges organized a series of sit-ins at area lunch counters to protest the city's legally sanctioned segregation. Local retailers subsequently agreed to negotiate with representatives from the recently formed Student Group Committee on Appeal for Human Rights, but neither side evinced a willingness to compromise. Protests expanded when negotiations stalled, and student leaders persuaded Martin Luther King Jr. to participate in a bid for greater publicity. After more than a year of demonstrations and failed negotiations, members of the city's black political establishment met privately with white business leaders and negotiated a settlement wherein area lunch counters would be desegregated after the court ordered integration of city schools the following fall. Although they protested the decision on campus, student leaders ultimately submitted to the settlement, and Atlanta's lunch counters were desegregated in September 1961.
But never really studied it, you know, in school. But watching the news, a lot of those things, Martin Luther King sticks in my head of things, and our family was basically high support for the civil rights movement in most cases. Actually, a lot of them maybe didn't like, human nature is not like to be told what you're going to do.
Right.
But inside, you know what's right and wrong. So you generally will accept things if in your heart you know right and wrong. So that's kind of what happened in my experience. But like I said, my class was pretty well down there with the Negro men. We were the working class.
Right.
And we might have seen things differently if, you know, had we been in a higher status.
Right.
But actually the civil rights movement was kind of different, and I think that it allowed the Negro people opportunity to grow, and which they had not had, you know, prior to that.
Right. Do you remember like some of the like sit-ins and stuff like that that took place?
I do. I remember. Actually, those were the big things. Were in the 50s and that sort of thing. But I do remember in Atlanta, Georgia, some guys that working at the farmers market kind of probably was one of the first sit-ins. But
Yeah.
there was no trouble. Most of the guys just kind of talked of how they didn't like it, but didn't fight it.
Right.
But that's the only really big thing other than the news that I know of any trouble.
At 6:01 p.m. on April 4th, 1968, civil rights leader Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was hit by a sniper's bullet. King had been standing on the balcony in front of his room at the Lorraine Motel in Memphis, Tennessee, when, without warning, he was shot. The .30 caliber bullet entered King's right cheek, traveled through his neck, and finally stopped at his shoulder blade. My grandfather and his family were shocked and somewhat devastated by this because they were a part of the working class and respected King and thought what he was doing was appropriate for humanity.
You and your family reacted once you guys heard that Dr. King was assassinated?
Well, yeah, you know, I think it was a sad feeling, but it wasn't anything like when the president was assassinated, Kennedy. But you know, knowing what his reasons for what he was doing, and then that happened to him. Yeah, I think, as I recall, it was kind of a sad day, evening, and you know, it was talked about. So it was it made an impression on our family and many people around Hood River, wherever. But that was just one man who did a lot of good things, motivating people.
Did you and your family think it was like smart that King went about promoting the nonviolence like throughout the black community?
You know, yeah, I remember my dad saying that what he's doing will probably work.
Why is that?
But it's hard because he had the ability to motivate people through love and understanding, and once that you've accomplished that, you're success.
Mm-hmm.
But when you force things on people, it's a lot of times temporary
Mm-hmm.
until they can get out from your authority,
Mm-hmm.
and then they go back. But King seemed to change people's hearts,
Mm-hmm.
black and white.
Right.
He had that ability,
Mm-hmm.
and he could grab your compassion.
Mm-hmm. Did you ever like watch any of the coverage on his "I Had a Dream" speech?
I did several times, and still you watch it, and you can you get emotional, lump in your throat, maybe
Right.
say what. Yeah, it was very, very moving.
Mm-hmm.